So to introduce myself, because I'm going to make the first presentation, I'm a non-exec director of a great little company called Good Energy. We're based down in Wiltshire, and I'll be talking about that company in a moment. So it's as we saw yesterday, it's probably an understatement to say that the renewable sector worldwide is undergoing a period of great change, and that seems to be accelerating. Here in the UK, the government isn't actually helping us a huge amount. Well, they are, obviously, to a certain extent, but sitting where I am, you do see that they seem to be changing the rules fairly frequently, which makes it quite difficult to plan the future and to develop competitive strategies. But it's clear that, as you'll hear from our speakers, that we have to take into account climate change, and those companies that don't take into account climate change will, in the end, I think, in the medium and long term, become stranded. So how does an organization survive in such a situation? To be competitive, you really do have to take a different view, and this is what the theme of this particular session is. So let's move on to the first presentation, which I say is myself, and we try to. We're one of the smaller electricity suppliers in the UK, and we try to do things differently. And I think, as you heard yesterday, about 15% of the UK's electricity comes from renewables. But if you buy electricity as a domestic customer from Good Energy, then 100% of your electricity will be renewable. We guarantee that. And we supply a fairly healthy customer base of over 55,000 customers. And we also we're one of the top 5 feed-in tariff providers as well in the UK market. So we have a very large number of feed-in tariff of customers. We've got 2 operational wind farms, which feeds into our supply portfolio. And we spent the last year and a half developing a number of solar sites. So we have consented about 100 megawatts, over 100 megawatts of solar. So we took that very, very clear strategic decision to do something differently, and that was to develop all those solar sites. And our target, that's why one reason we're developing those solar sites, is that 50% of our supply will come from our own renewable generation by 2016. So I guess we take a different view, talking about the word different again, of how we actually generate and how we buy our electricity. We've got a huge number of electricity suppliers. People with 4 kilowatts of solar on their roof, if we have a feed-in tariff with them, it's quite likely that we're buying their electricity. So we're buying electricity from those 59,000 feed-in tariff customers. And also we're contracted with many small and medium-sized generators. A number of community wind farms, a number of community solar farms, we are buying their electricity as well. Looking at the 80-20 rule, of course, the majority of our electricity that we buy comes from a much smaller number of customers, of suppliers with larger generation capacity. So 80% of our supply comes from 640 generators, even though we do pride ourselves in looking after the very, very small generators in the marketplace as well. And we do have a trading function which looks after basically our balancing requirements as and when required. And we're buying from wind, from solar, from anaerobic digestion generation, and also from hydro. So quite a diverse renewable supply base. So what else do we do differently? Well, we're a quoted company. We're quoted on the AIM market. So we have one set of stakeholders are our shareholders. We obviously have customers, they're another stakeholder. And we have the communities that we operate in. They're clearly very important stakeholders in our projects as well. And one of the things that we like to do is to be very open with the communities that we're operating in, where we're developing projects, and communicate with them very early to hear what their concerns are and to take into account those concerns when we are developing a project. We own the first commercial wind farm that was built in the UK. That's called Delabole, down in Cornwall. If you've been on holiday in Cornwall, you've probably seen the Delabole wind farm quite close to Bude, which does happen to be quite a windy area, which is great for our generation. That was repowered about 3 years ago, so it's now, we've reduced the number of turbines and increased the generation capacity quite dramatically there. We've just commissioned a new wind farm in Yorkshire at a place called Hamble. That was last month. And one of the things, again, that we've done differently, we're the first organisation to actually develop a local community tariff. And we've done that for Delabole, and we'll be doing that for Hamble as well. So we generate from the wind we have capacity of about 17.4 megawatts. We're looking to increase that, as you can imagine. So engaging communities, this is just going to that community tariff, as well as having a community fund and every year putting money into the local community fund, which goes to the benefit of all of the community. We've also said for Delabole and also for Hamble, if you live close to the wind farm, we'll give you a 20% discount on your electricity. And you'd be surprised, the take-up of that was quite significant. And if the wind blows more than we think it's going to, or there's a good year at Delabole or Hamble, we will also then give a further discount to the electricity tariffs for the local community. So again, we're thinking about that part of our stakeholder network. And any further wind sites, we will be doing that as well. So what's happening with solar? I've talked about the 100 megawatt sites already, which are consented and have connection agreements. One of those sites is 49.9 megawatts, which is pretty large, but that's on a disused airfield in Norfolk, and it's got some listed buildings on it, some old aircraft control towers, and part of our commitment for the consent was to maintain those buildings and to use those buildings for kind of public, for community good. So that's an interesting site. We're constructing 2 sites at the moment in Cornwall, and we've sold 2 of our consented sites with connections to help charge up our funding so we can build the other sites. Something else we're doing differently is as we're a listed company, we've raised equity on the AIM market last year, so as well as cash flow from our operations, cash flow from selling those solar sites, consented solar sites, we've raised money on AIM, but in addition, we've had the Good Energy bond last year. Our target was 5 million, and you always have to set an upper limit when you issue a bond. We set that upper limit at 15 million, and we got to 15 million in 3 weeks, and we had to close the bond early, which was a great surprise, a very pleasant surprise for us. The other very pleasing thing was that 80% of the applications came from our customers. So that stakeholder group clearly wanted to further invest in what we were doing. So again, that is something quite different to other companies, I think. Our difference has been recognized by third parties. In particular, for the 3rd year running, we won the Which Energy Company Satisfaction Survey, and that's in competition with all the other small suppliers, and also the Big Six. So we consider that to be a feather in our cap and reflects again our customer relationship and our focus on customer relationships. And there's a few other awards that we've won in the last 12 months as well. So what makes us different? Well, really, as you see there, our objective, our focus, is to keep the world a habitable place by avoiding climate change and making the UK more energy self-sufficient. That's what we're about. That's our long-term objective. And then we have kind of these 3 areas of focus. The top one there is customer focus, and our independent generators, that they play a part in what we do. The bottom left there is we spend a lot of time lobbying for the small electricity suppliers, but also to ensure a level playing field for renewables. And our CEO, Juliet Davenport, is exceptionally well connected. That is one of her major focuses, is making sure that there is a level playing field for the renewable business and for the small operators. We have to do all of this within a commercial context, a commercial focus. So our business model, clearly we have to pay dividends to our shareholders, which is what we do, but we also have to focus on the customers and also the generators that supply us with electricity, and as I've mentioned already, the local communities in which we operate. So that's kind of the triangle of our major areas of focus to meet that objective in the middle. So what are we doing next? Well, we've been going for about 15 years. We really are looking to expand our customer base and to grow our renewable energy sources so that we can meet 50% of our demand from our own generation, and still offer local communities and our customers to provide their own generation as well, to get involved in the electricity business. And with energy efficiency as well, we provide a lot of energy efficiency advice to our customers, and to continue to play a role in that energy debate, which is obviously now hotting up with the various parties now developing their manifestos for the next election. So where next? We're always looking for new things to do, and we've recently announced that we've invested £500,000 in the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon project, and that'll entitle us to an option to 10% of the output from the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon, which is doing something different. Again, nobody else has invested, no other supply company has invested in the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. So we're further diversifying our renewable base so that we have a really good, solid supply of renewable electricity moving forward into the future. And that doesn't come on stream until 2018. I think there's a presentation later with regards to the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. Here are some nice things which people have said about us. I'm not going to go through these, but hopefully this may persuade you that if you're not a customer of Good Energy already, perhaps you should be, because people say nice things about us. And then the last slide shows we're involved in lots of different types of energy: tidal lagoon, water, sunshine, etc., the wind, and it says there's switch for good, and we certainly hope that you will, and hopefully you'll become part of our customer base or part of our supplier base as well. And that's kind of my plug for Good Energy and how Good Energy as a company is doing things differently.